Hey everybody, TG here with simplertrading.com, and this is the Moxie method on StockCharts.com. So hope you guys are having a good time out there. The markets are a little bit crazy. We've been seeing that. We've been seeing some pretty interesting action out there, mostly to the bearish side, mostly down. Today we did get a pretty good bounce. We were looking for that. We got it. We were able to cash in on a trade there today. But now that we've had that bounce, I do view it up into resistance. I'm going to show you what that looks like. And I wouldn't be surprised to see the market start to roll over in the near future. I will always give a little bit of room. There could always be another little bounce tomorrow, which would be Friday. But other than that, I think the markets do need to come back down. And as I said, I'll show you what that looks like to the Moxie method and everything that I trade with. The other thing we're going to be talking about today is a whole lot of inverse trampoline moves. So what that is when the Moxie indicator is below zero, indicating negative energy, negative strength, even though price looks like it's up. So we talked about that last week with the S&P. I'm going to show you a bunch of setups that we've had over the last week or two to where that if you're on the long side, you would be saying, hey, maybe I shouldn't be long here because of what the Moxie indicator is saying. Or if you're looking to short, this might give you a leg up to say, yeah, I think there's opportunity to the downside. So let's dive into it, show you guys what we're looking at, and we'll get into it. All right, and then remember, for anybody who is new to me, since this is a new service over at StockCharts.com, you can come over to profitpilot.com. It's profit-pilot.com. That's where you guys can see what I write with the newsletters. And you can find the products over at simplertrading.com that you want to pick up, the classes, any other kind of education that you want to from my kind of trading, or the alert service that we offer. And then, of course, you come over here if you guys are interested in getting Moxie on the StockCharts platform. You can come over here and grab it too. We're going to have all the information down in the description. All right, so let's get into the markets and see what's going on here. Pick this up. So what we've been looking at, let me get over to here. The NASDAQ is the one that we took the trade on yesterday in the alert room with the Moxie traders. And the reason why we did this is, well, for one, the markets had been going down for quite some time, right? And it's like, okay, at some point, these things are going to bounce. We just know that. Let me back up just a little bit and show you here the NASDAQ on the weekly time frame. You know, we've been talking about this before. The weekly 21 is typically where price is going to bounce on a weekly time frame. So we've kind of seen it back here, and through here, and through here. And here we are again, that at some point price was going to bounce. So it's just a matter of when and when we needed to figure that out. So that is what I've been telling everybody. It's like, okay, you know, we could play the short side for a little bit, but you got to understand when it's time to see a bounce in the market. So with that in mind, and on Monday, we did get another big flush out. A lot of times when you look at the market and how things go, it's worse before it gets better, right? So on Monday was like even a bigger move down. Well, that's kind of the reversion time. That's when things turn around because it just washed everybody out. It took people's stops out, and then they grabbed the liquidity, and now they're able to move up. And so we got that move up, but we didn't quite trust it yet. We needed to wait for price to actually engage with some moving averages. And then yesterday, which was Wednesday, still looking pretty heavy. In fact, the internals were still pretty heavy. But what I was watching for, and I could see this ahead of, I guess McConnell talking about the debt ceiling and finally got some thumbs up on some of that. So, news, but what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? So for me, what I was looking at is, hey, I'm looking at this and saying, I think that this is probably going to be bullish for all these other reasons. And then the news came out. Okay, so be it. I already was seeing this set up on a technical side of it. So if you look here, you can see that price was pulling back into an uptrending 15-minute 50. And then look here, the Moxie indicator was over zero. It was staying over zero, even though price went down. And this is the real strength, the real power of the Moxie indicator is that it's showing you that internally energy and momentum is actually positive. It's actually trying to show you that I'm over zero and I want to keep going up. What the heck is price doing? Well, price was pulling back into an uptrending moving average. And as long as that held, we're looking pretty good. So the news came out about the debt ceiling and stuff like that. So they're working together, and we're not going to default as a country, which we knew we never were going to. And then you can see by the end of the day, price had closed up, and this was looking pretty good. And actually, also here on the hourly chart, you can see price was able to finally cross over the hourly 50. So Like, yeah, there's probably going to be a bounce up here. You know, price has been pretty oversold for a while, and we finally got that bounce. So we traded just a quick 1 day trade from Wednesday to Thursday, and we got this nice pop into resistance right here onto the daily 21, which made sense. And now the thing's overbought. You know, we can see that there's a big gap here between price and the 8 EMA. As I said, it's up here at some resistance. Now, as I said, there could be another little bit of a move up, but nothing I'm willing to trade. At this point, we're just waiting. We got to wait for price to come back down and start looking back down at some of these other moving averages on the hourly chart. We got to let price fade for a little bit. So, you know, even if there's another up move for 1 or 2 days, there's nothing really for me to do for it. We caught our move. We're happy. And now I think the risk is that we should be looking for a pullback. We should be looking for price to come back down into some support. And if we look at the S&P, you know, this one, we can see even more clearly that it did run into significant upside resistance. Like, it's up here at the hourly 200. It is up here at the daily 50. The 8 is still below the 21. Like, I don't want to be going long when the market is up at those areas. If anything, we should be expecting price to come back down here and retest the low area. It could keep going lower after that. We're just going to have to keep watching and double checking. But at this point, you know, we had our upside move and now we need a fade. So that's kind of what that's looking like. There's not much to say about the IWM. Obviously, this thing has been just chopping and going sideways. The only thing I kind of keep mentioning is on the weekly chart, the 8 is still over the 21. So technically that's still bullish. And price is staying above the weekly 50 and it's flagging right into the monthly 10. So, you know, okay, it's not down and out, but it's also not really doing so much. So we're just going to have to keep watching and waiting and seeing when this thing wants to do anything. It's also at the daily 200. You know, it's had some punctures below it, but overall you can see that price is coming into the daily 200 and it's just kind of going sideways. So that's what we're seeing. All right, now I want to show you a little bit about Bitcoin and Ethereum. And, you know, I just like to use GBTC. I know it's maybe not the most precise or best product to use, but it still works just fine for me. And we got a pretty big move this week, you know, or starting last week. And it caught me by surprise. I wasn't able to catch it, mostly because the kind of setups that I like to take are on the hourly chart. Because yes, there can be setups and trades based on the 15-minute time frame, but it's that they don't often go too far. That's why this one was kind of surprising just how far it did go based on a 15-minute setup. And here's that 15-minute setup. Price got over the moving average, and look at that Moxie indicator. It was looking pretty good. And so it shot up, and price continued to run over the 15-minute 50, and, you know, okay, so there was a move. Now at this point, I would be expecting a pullback, just like the market. I want to see this thing come back down to some support, mostly because it's just up here. It's just kind of, it's way too high. There's no way I'm going to be buying that. And what I want to be looking at is I want to see price come back down into the hourly 50. We're just going to have to wait for that. Now, what was interesting about this setup, and maybe this is where the energy came from, is that we actually got a trampoline move on the daily time frame. And so remember, trampoline move is when price is below the 50 and the Moxie indicator is still above 0. This is, again, the power of the Moxie indicator. Is what it's telling you is that the indicator was still over 0, which means that the indicator was still positive, it had energy, had positive momentum. And even though price dipped below the moving average, and so it's saying, hey, price, you shouldn't be below that moving average because I, Moxie, am still positive and over 0. So this is a trampoline move. Price jumps on it like a trampoline and then gets shot right back up like a trampoline. So pretty good situation on that, and I love to catch any kind of pullbacks. Now, let me go over MSTR. And MSTR is just it's a stock, it's a regular company, but what they've decided to do, actually, let me flip it over here. What they've decided to do is just pretty much invest all of their money into Bitcoin or crypto. So, you know, it's basically become a proxy Bitcoin play. So one thing I wanted to show you was the inverse trampoline move. And this is kind of how back in the day, I was looking at Bitcoin going lower. And so what you see right here, you see how price was kind of going sideways and it was over the hourly 50. Notice that the Moxie indicator had been below zero and staying below zero for several days. This was telling me that even though it looked like price was maybe flagging sideways into support or was trying to stay over the hourly 50, the Moxie indicator was telling me, no, this is not a good situation, because the indicator is actually kind of telling you what's going on inside of price. And it was telling me for days that I'm negative, I'm heavy, I am negative momentum, and you should not be believing any big move to the upside. Like, this is not the time to get long. And so that was actually a really good signal that kind of helped me understand what was going to happen with Bitcoin, and that Bitcoin was probably going to be pulling back. Let me just also note here, this was a regular trampoline move. That is when price pulled back below the 50, but the Moxie indicator stayed above zero. So here I'm just trying to show you situations where the Moxie indicator was actually really helping us both to the long side and to the short side based on the same rules, and just inversing those rules, positive versus negative. All right, so let's get it back over here and let's go talk about some of those uranium stocks. So UU, and they were kind of crazy too. They've had some really big short squeezes, missed the first move, didn't really think that this was going to be something that happened. I mean, who would have thought that uranium was suddenly going to explode the way that it did? So missed that move. That's okay. But we've been waiting for price to come back down. And then we see that, yes, price did come back down a bit, and then it bounced. And you can see right here that it bounced. And just like MSTR, doesn't this look exactly the same? And here you can see that price got over the hourly 50. And, if you were trading without the Moxie indicator, you might be looking at this and saying, great, it bounced, it's over the 50. And as long as it holds the 50, this should be a great trade. But you know what? I never even considered getting long in this name, because the Moxie indicator here was below zero. Yet again, another inverse trampoline move on the hourly time frame, telling me, nope, this is probably not a good trade to be entering long. I don't think this is going to be working out. And sure enough, yesterday this thing just went straight down. Now, maybe at some point this will be coming long. It just meant that right now that was not the trade. Maybe this will become a long because of the double bottom, and maybe we're starting to see some positive divergence, sure. But what it was trying to tell you was this was not the area to get long on that. Remember, and I'll step back to BGFV, Big Five. And remember, Big Five had the same situation. You guys see the same thing right here, how price was over the hourly 50 and the Moxie indicator was below zero. This was back when one of the first weeks that I was here at StockCharts.com telling you guys about the Moxie indicator and how it works. You could see the same thing. I was like, it was real time. I was telling you, like, yeah, I kind of see this. We've been talking about it, trying to figure out if this is the right bounce to get into. And I said, no, it won't be, because price is over the 50, but the Moxie indicator is below zero, and that's an inverse trampoline move. So I'm not ready to go in there yet. Now, maybe this is setting up eventually. We still need to see more time, but maybe this is setting up to go long. And that's because we have price down and the Moxie indicator up. We're starting to see that positive divergence. So it's something to keep an eye on, but we still not quite seeing the right entry yet. And so we just have to be patient. All right, then some of the other ones I wanted to talk about, Away, which is a ETF for the travel sector. We've been seeing some names, the cruise lines, the airlines, Eventbrite, Livewire, we hotels. We've just kind of been seeing them kind of warm up a little bit, even some of the casinos. And I've been looking at this and trying to figure out if there's going to be an opportunity, and I just can't quite see it yet. The issue that I'm having is that, yeah, we've had this first move up right here, which kind of got the attention of some traders out there. But I was also then looking at, hey, I think that moving average is in the way. I'm thinking price isn't going to be being able to really just keep moving up from here. I think it's going to have to pull back a little bit. And so we're just kind of sitting waiting. I think this is what we're kind of noticing on a few other of those things. They kind of travel in packs and they bring their friends, right? So most of the travel sector is going to be looking the same, just like probably most of the metals look the same versus like some of the semis look the same. It just kind of depends, or gold stocks, So I think we're going to be running into some resistance there. And I'd like to see if eventually price can come down a little bit, maybe a little bit closer to the daily 50. The other thing that was kind of keeping me out of this trade, again, with the Moxie indicator and that divergence, you can see that we've had price higher, but notice that we had the Moxie indicator lower right here on the hourly time frame. That was kind of giving me some clues that, hey, because again, what is the Moxie indicator trying to tell us? It's trying to say price went higher, but it did on less energy. That is what that negative divergence is trying to tell you. So it's like, yeah, I can kind of keep going, but just be aware that every time it keeps going up and up and up, it's doing it on less and less fuel. And then we could even see a little bit closer, it did a double top and even more pronounced negative divergence. So I wasn't really too keen on that yet. And I still don't quite see an entry on it, but that should be kind of a representative of the travel stocks. You know, if we kind of look at Jets, which is the ETF for the airlines, and you can see the same thing here. I mean, it's almost identical. You can see price just running right into that same moving average. And you can see here price up, or even if you want to say double top, you can see negative divergence on the Moxie indicator. So just not much to do here. Maybe there will be later, but I'm not seeing it yet. All right. And then some other areas that I was looking at about these inverse trampoline moves in the tech space, Avalara, and I think this is something that a lot of people probably trade and pay attention to. And you know what? Actually, let me back out to this one. It'll give us a little bit bigger view. There we go. So in through here, kind of minimize this. You know, if it wasn't for the Moxie indicator, you'd be looking at this stock saying, hey, that looks pretty good. You know, it's up, it's doing well, it's bouncing off the 21, it's in an uptrend. Like, hey, what isn't to like about this? And then suddenly the bottom falls out. You're like, what the heck happened? So what I'm trying to do is show you guys that the Moxie indicator can help you see that kind of stuff and either get out of your long position, don't get into a long position, or, you know, if the environment is right, maybe you can actually take a short. And so yet again, here's that inverse trampoline move right here. So you see how price was trying to stay over the hourly 50, but notice what the Moxie indicator was telling us for days. It was declining, it was below zero, it stayed below zero. It was like, look, I'm negative. I'm negative energy. What the heck are you doing up there, price? Like, you shouldn't be up there, right? Price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below zero. And so it, with the market, finally broke and it started to fill this gap. Now, I usually look at the daily 50 as the first target, but then it kept going lower. So fine, you know, there's just, you're out, hopefully. But that's something to kind of keep in mind if you're going to be trying to trade some of these things and you start seeing an inverse trampoline move on your long position. You might want to tighten your stops or rethink it or just kind of figure out what your plan might be. Another one that we saw in that kind of space, so Coupa Soft, you know, it looked like it was maybe trying to get going. It looked like it was going to, you know, had a nice move up here, then pulled back, and maybe we're going to get another move. Well, nope. The Moxie indicator was telling us another situation, that this was not a good long entry. Look right here, same situation. Notice how price was trying to get up over the hourly 50, but notice that the Moxie indicator never went positive. So that's the thing. You know, with the Moxie indicator rules, the classes that I teach, you guys can go over to profitpilot.com and check that stuff out if you want to get a class and get the rules and the spreadsheet and all that kind of stuff. It's a two-part system. You need to have price over the 50 and you need to have the Moxie indicator over zero. Otherwise, it's conflicting, and that's an inverse trampoline move. And I can show you that these things are pretty powerful. They work really well. Like, don't go long when the Moxie indicator is still below zero, and you can see that there was a bit of a gap here between price and the daily 50. So the bottom just fell out of that thing and down it went. Like, okay, so we just kind of hang on and wait for the next opportunity. I think there was another one. How about COMM? This was another pretty good example. I have to back up a little bit over here, down through here, and show you this. All right, so look here, and this was a pretty big drop. There we go. All right, so if you look at CommScope, you know, it's up here, it's having a good time, it's doing a big uptrend. You're thinking, oh, hey, is there going to be more, or do I need to watch out? Because sometimes, you know, these really high prices, they come back down. They come back down hard. Notice right in through here, price is trying to stay over the hourly 50. It's kind of chopping through. You know, maybe it looked like it was going to bounce off the hourly 200, get going. But look, the Moxie indicator was telling you, no, this was not a good situation. Price was still significantly below, or the Moxie indicator was still significantly below the zero line, and it never came up. So, you know, you keep looking at something like this, and if you're trying to go long there, look at the Moxie indicator. It's like, not a good situation. And then if you were trying to short this, thinking that, okay, maybe there's an opportunity, Yeah, you can see that price was not holding the hourly 50, and look at the Moxie indicator. It kept getting worse. It started getting more red and declining even more, even though price was generally chopping sideways. And you know what? That was a pretty good situation for at least downside, because look at this thing. Look at that big move to the downside. Would have been fantastic to catch that. And then if you guys want to see a little bit more, here is the Moxie price trigger, which really just indicates that the Moxie indicator has gone from positive to negative, crossed the zero line. Look where that thing fired. It fired right before this whole thing just imploded and went down. And that is a really good signal to be paying attention to if you're trading this stock and if you're long or something like that. And again, if you're interested in shorting it too. All right, then CVS. This was another one that some of my subscribers were discussing in my chat room, and I cautioned against it. I always try and give people their own autonomy if they want to go make their own trades and stuff. I try and coach them. And what we had noticed, let me kind of zoom in on this one. So what we had noticed with CVS was that it had gotten over the daily 50 and it had come back down into the daily 50. And so normally you'd be looking at it saying, hey, price pulled back into the moving average and we should be finding some support and we should get price to get going up from there. And I said, yes, that could work, but just keep in mind that the Moxie indicator is not over zero yet. That could be a problem. And it was right in through here is where we were discussing, because it kind of looked like there was a double bottom and kind of a double bottom there. And then I think they had talked about it right there as the Moxie indicator had started to fire. I said, okay, you can go long because, no trading system is ever perfect. So let's see if this daily 50 can hold. And I said, but we need to make sure that, trust but verify. We need to make sure that this thing actually works. So if you get in right here as price is getting over and bouncing off of the hourly 50 and the Moxie indicator is just starting to cross on the hourly time frame, cool. But you got to make sure this thing actually works. And what I mean by that is as price continues to move up, you need to make sure that price actually stays above or holds the hourly 50, because otherwise it's going to move up, the 50 won't, and you're going to get a big air pocket and it's become unsupported, and exactly what happened is going to happen. And you can see here, this chart on the hourly chart has been notorious for that. You can see where it failed the hourly 50, it failed the hourly 50, and it failed the hourly 50 again. So this is what I was trying to tell my subscribers of like, hey, this has been having some problems. So if you want to take it, sure, but make sure it engages and stays with that moving average. And so set your stop kind of tight just in case it doesn't work out. And all of this was also kind of stemming from that inverse trampoline move that I could see on the daily chart. And I was trying to express caution to him. So I thought that was a pretty good education moment to be circling back with. Now, we talk about maybe where is some strength. Well, I am noticing in the kind of the financial sector that there has been some strength here. I'm still cautious about it. I'm not quite ready to go long on much right now. And I'll show you two things because this also looks a lot like CVS. So this first area where price was over the daily 50, and maybe even said, hey, price bounced off the daily 50 right there. But ultimately, you can see price over the 50 and notice that the Moxie indicator was not over zero yet. And I was like, that doesn't look good. And then I'll show you here. Look at the hourly time frame. You see how price tried to go higher? Look how much further lower the Moxie indicator was. That is some serious negative divergence. Like, that's problematic. And so you can see that that was really just an issue. And you can see actually there's the Moxie price trigger to the downside. And you can see that price did not hold the hourly 50. So you just got to get out of the trade if you got into it. That is not working. And then you can see here price continued to stay underneath the hourly 50. Now, maybe we're trying this again. I can see a couple things that are working out. So you can see that price came all the way back down here on the daily chart. That's a double bottom. And then you can see we have positive divergence on the daily chart. Okay. And then you see here that price is starting to hold the daily 50 along with the 8 over the 21. So it does look like it's starting to work out. And I do understand that the Moxie indicator is below zero. So again, trust but verify. So if you're going to be taking a trade like this, keep making sure that it works. Make sure your stop is kind of tight, because if this continues to kind of, work its way up, the Moxie indicator can cross over zero very quickly after this positive divergence. But if it never does, then it's a false move and you just need to be careful. So then if this thing is going to keep working out, notice that here on the hourly chart, we got price dipping below the hourly 50. But notice that the Moxie indicator has been over zero the entire time. That is a trampoline move. That's really good. So that's the kind of stuff we want to see. And that's why I also noticed that price had pulled back into the daily 50 with the 8 over the 21. Things were looking pretty positive. And so now it looks like we might, kind of in through here, we might be getting price to break out a little bit. So if you're interested in something like this, just make sure price continues to follow these moving averages. Make sure that eventually the Moxie indicator crosses over zero. And just make sure it doesn't do one of these things where price fails the hourly 50. We want to make sure it does this. We want to see price stay above the hourly 50 and actually keep moving up. All right, everyone. Well, there you have it. That would be October 7th. I know it's been some craziness out there. I do think we need to see the markets pull back a little bit, but expect it to be very choppy. We're in an area where there's going to be some transition, just like how earlier this week and last week, the markets were moving down and they started to get choppy just before they bounced. So they could get really choppy before they start to roll over again. This is a very challenging place to be. Make sure you kind of stay nimble, use smaller sizes, keep your stops tight, or if you're going to keep them wide, just kind of make sure you understand where you're working with this stuff. It's challenging out there. The markets are not trending, and just be careful. And you know what? If you're new to this and this is not the kind of environment that you're used to, it's good to just step aside, because it's easier and better to save money than to waste it trying to get chopped up like this. And you just have to wait for a better time, better environment for the market. So thanks again, everybody. Appreciate you to StockCharts TV, and we'll talk to you next week. Later.
Hey guys, Dave Keller here with StockCharts.com. Thanks so much for watching our video. If you enjoyed it, and we hope you did, hit the like button right below. Also, we have so much new content every day. Consider subscribing to the channel. Just hit the subscribe button in the video or right below. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Have a fantastic day.